I think this video is really interesting. I think this video is about the price of entry when it comes to doing business in Ghana as a foreigner, as a non-Ghanaian. This is a video that we found from DW Africa. It is actually a German media company, right? They travel all over Africa and they go to different cities in Africa to interview people. They ask some interesting questions. Some of the questions are kind of provocative, evocative, controversial, and they spark a debate they bring in. But in this particular video, there are a lot of African Americans, and some of the topics or some of the questions that they were asking were about how the presence of African Americans actually impact the local Ghanaians. But that is not really what we're going to highlight. What I really would like us to highlight is the cost of setting up a business in Ghana if you happen to be a non-Ghanaian, right? It's kind of really, it's interesting. It's almost like they have two economies, one for the locals and one for the foreigners. So I hope you can learn something from this. I hope the lazy politicians, but most importantly, I hope the Chamber of Commerce in Ghana can learn something from this, because the amount of money or the amount of capital that, according to this guy, Ghana is really asking for is ridiculous. It's stupid. It's just simply plain naivety, right? Because most Americans and most Europeans do not really have this amount of money lying down somewhere in their bank account. I think it's a lot of money. When I look at this video, I think it is also about how foreigners are locked out of the Ghanaian business market. And I think it is almost as though Ghana is literally shooting itself in the foot. Because if you have a city like Accra, what you really need, you need innovators. You need entrepreneurs. You need people who can come in with great ideas. You need people who can come in with small ideas, medium ideas, and big ideas. You need all kinds of entrepreneurs to set up businesses. And if you are asking ridiculous amount of money simply because somebody, or especially those of us, the diasporans are coming in to set up businesses, which is something that I think Ghana is desperately in need of, because Ghanaian businesses are they're suffering, right? If you're asking that kind of money just to set up your business, to start your business in Ghana, I think you're just literally closing the door to so many opportunities. And when I look at this video, I think about all the people who really want to come to Ghana to set up a business, all right? And they look at the amount that you are required, and you think, holy crap, there are other countries on the continent. There is Nigeria, there is Kenya, there is Rwanda. These countries are not asking that amount of money, right? And for somebody like me as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't, right? I wouldn't invest that amount of money, in a country that is a third world country. Anything could happen, right? How are you going to get your money out in a country that maybe hasn't actually invested heavily in its business sector? You need a thriving business sector that can encourage people to set up businesses very easily, and to set up businesses that they can run 24 hours without the issue of power, electricity.
Do you feel this because I know that you run your own business and setting it up, was it easy for you?
If you are Ghanaian, you can set up the business for like 1,000 to 2,000 cedis. But if you are coming from outside, they're telling him, bring in $500,000. Now we'll set up, you can set up a business as the sole, owner. That is not, very easy, for anyone. If we're not having a very deep analysis of what's going on, they play black people against other black people. So just to the point, we need to understand that we're all black people and we have very common genotype, common phenotype, and a common thrust for survival that we need to have, as opposed to divide and conquer. Let's play those Asantes against the Fantes, Bloods versus Crips. They do it every single place.
Okay, but what I'm hearing is that black...
Basically, what this brother is saying is that if you happen to be a Ghanaian, a native Ghanaian citizen, or maybe one of the locals, you can literally start a business and it can cost you as little as 1,000 Ghana cedis, which is less than $100, or 2,000 Ghana cedis, which is less than $200, and off you go. But if you happen to be a foreigner, oh my God, right? So which means it's going to cost you a lot. But I think 1,000 Ghana cedis to start a business is relatively easy. I would expect that if the Ghanaian government was smarter, was a lot innovative. Okay, somebody mentioned in one of the other videos that Ghana is being run by people that do not have their own original ideas, right? They may be right, they may be wrong. Ghanaian government can set up a system, a sector, right, a scheme where 1,000 Ghanaian cedis, can, like a macro loan, just to help Ghanaians start small businesses, just to set up a business, right? Imagine how many businesses you can set up in a day, in a week, and in a month. I know that this brother is just saying that, look, we are all black people. You don't want black people to be turning on each other, right? Their shanties against their fanties. That is how, it's noble for you to think that way, but that's not how most Africans think. That's not how most Ghanaians think. And most Ghanaians are just thinking, holy crap, I want to be rich. I want a lot of money. I want a lot of millions of dollars, right? And that is where we have tribalism. And I've always said that tribalism is literally worse than racism. And some people just came after me. And it's true, right? If we didn't have tribalism on the continent, I think the continent of Africa would have been so completely different. Okay, we would have actually had a different continent. We would have actually had different countries, different cities, different neighborhoods, and different towns for our people. But oh my God, the tribalism is unbelievable and is destroying the continent. But then there's also the issue of, if you are a foreigner, you need $500,000. I don't know about you, but all I know is that there are a lot of diasporians. Most of us living in Europe, right? Living somewhere in England and also from the US. There are a lot of us that have $500,000 lying around or in our bank account. If we had that, most people will invest that amount of money into real estate, right? I guarantee you that statistically, if you ask the question, what is the percentage of Americans that have $500,000? It's a very, very small percentage. What is the percentage of Europeans, or the percentage of Europeans that are coming to Africa that really have 500,000 euros? Okay, the percentage is very, very small. Okay, a lot of them are not really, they are not many. And if you did, for the first time going to Africa, you wouldn't want to invest that amount of money into a country that you don't really know very well. For somebody like people like us that grew up in the West, that you didn't grow up on the continent, you didn't grow up in a place like Ghana or some of the other countries on the continent, you wouldn't want to do that. You would like to start very, very small. And I think that is the lesson, right? That is the lesson. But I think the most important lesson here is that Ghana is literally pushing a lot of innovators, a lot of businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs, okay, into pushing them to other countries like Rwanda, like Kenya. Kenya, I think I heard they have, like, I know because I've been there, like better infrastructure than Ghana. So this is something that I think, would you, if you had 500,000 US dollars and you're living in the US or living in Europe, would you invest? Would you use that money to set up a business in Ghana? Personally, I wouldn't. Leave your comment below and let us know where you're watching this video from.